We have arrived at the popular Autódromo José Carlos Pache in Interlagos, Sao Paulo for the running of the Brazilian Grand Prix, the final race of the season, where the Drivers' Championship will be decided this week. Coming into this week, apart from the title battle being a talking point, the final 4 seats for 2021 have been announced this week. So without any hold-ups, let's get on with it. The first team news of the day concerns Haas, as after a bit of speculation, it has been announced that 2019 DTM champion Daniel Fraser will remain with the team for another season. Daniel has had a rocky 2020 season, with the last part of the season being much better for him. He currently lies 20th in the Drivers' Championship, 4 points behind future teammate Amelia Wilson, and his team Haas lie last in the Constructors, 4 points behind the soon-to-be departing Manor. Daniel's highest point this season came at Suzuka, where after so much bad luck, he finally took his and the team's first points of the season with 9th place after a brilliant showing in the wet conditions. Daniel will be relieved to know that he will still be with Haas for next season, and he'll be hoping to put the disappointment of this season behind him and that the team have a much improved car for 2021. As mentioned earlier, he'll partner alongside Amelia Wilson, who will join the team as a result of Manor pulling out to replace Dudu Kirby, who will be retiring from the OC after his home race this week. It will be interesting to see whether Haas will improve in 2021 or enjoy another tough season. The second team news today concerns the rebranded Aston Martin team, as after a lot of speculation, it has been announced that 2016 DTM champion and 2020 DTM runner-up Julius Anderson will make his welcome return to the top class in 2021 with the British car maker. Julius has had a resurgence of form in 2020 after a difficult 2019. He finished runner-up in the DTM Championship, only just missing out on the title to Romain Quarg and only achieving 1 win, which came at the first race of the season, which was at the current layout of Hockenheim. Throughout the last few seasons, Julius has been doing everything he can to get back into the top class, only for him to miss out on a number of occasions. So much so that in the run-up to this episode, he was convinced he wouldn't get the drive. But he has been proven wrong, and he'll be over the moon to know that he'll be back in the top class. He will hope that the team will have a big leap forward in 2021 to hopefully have a good chance of fighting for the title, and he hopes that he can be in the top class for a lot longer than the previous 2 stints. He will partner alongside Roland Mottram, which will see the pair of them reunite as teammates for the first time since 2017 when they were teammates at Williams. He will also, as a result of this news, replace George Rope, who will be leaving the team after this week to return to Red Bull. Both Roland and Julius will be hoping Aston Martin will be competitive in the first season of the fantasy era. The penultimate team news of the day concerns Renault, as after many weeks of gossip and speculation, it has been announced that the driver who will partner alongside Evan Byrne next season will be 2019 BTCC champion and the team's current test driver, Jesus Perinen. Jesus has had a very good season in GP2, despite having bad luck towards the end of the season. He finished the championship in 4th place, 1 point behind Ruslan Protsiuk, and his team Univirtuosi Racing won the team's championship by 9 points ahead of Trident. Jesus' highest point this season came at Baku, where he took his first and only GP2 win after managing to jump eventual champion Aaron Curtis in the pits. Jesus will be happy to know that he will make his top class debut next season, and he'll be looking to have an amazing rookie season with Renault. As mentioned, he will partner alongside Evan Byrne, who will remain with the team for the 5th successive season. He will replace Jake Galloway, who will be leaving the team after Brazil to join Ferrari. It will be interesting to see whether Renault will make a huge leap forward in 2021 to the point where they are back at the front fighting for the World Championship. The final team news of this year's silly season concerns Alfa Romeo, as after a lot of back and forth with so much stacked competition, it has been announced that 2020 DTM champion Romain Quarg will make his long-awaited return to the top class with the team in 2021. Roman has had an amazing 2020, with him having the season of his life. He won the DTM Championship 2 weeks ago after winning the final race of the season at Monza and also winning it from the back foot as a result of him not leading the Drivers' Championship going into the final race. Roman won 3 races throughout the course of the season, and his brilliant driving monster, as mentioned, gave him his first ever OC title, having come close to win the GP2 title back in 2009, only to lose it at the last race to Switzerland's Hackensaal. Roman will be relieved to know that he will finally be back in the top class in 2021, and he will be hoping Alfa Romeo will make a big leap forward in 2021. He will partner alongside Andre Verderi, who will remain with the team for the 3rd successive season. This does unfortunately mean for Aaron Curtis, who despite winning the GP2 title last week, has missed out on a drive for both Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo due to the competition being very competitive for both of them. However, there is no doubt that Aaron will be determined as ever to have a very good 2021 season and hope to be on the top class grid for 2022. In the meantime, as a result of this news, we now have a complete grid for 2021. So just to recap, here are the teams and drivers for the first season of the Fantasy era in current Constructors' Championship order. Mercedes will retain their lineup of 2019 World Champion Franco Lopez and Brit Armarcar, with both of them having a chance to win the title this week in Brazil. Red Bull will retain 2011 GP2 champion Franco Gamba, and he'll be joined by 5-time race winner George Rope, who will return to the Milton Keynes-based team for the first time since 2006, and also reunite with Franco for the first time since 2018 when they were teammates at Haas. The rebranded Aston Martin will retain Roland Motrin, and he'll be joined by 2016 DTM champion and a returning Julius Anderson, with the pair reuniting for the first time since 2017 when they were at Williams. Renault will retain Evan Byrne, and he'll be joined by 2019 BTCC champion Jesus Perinen. McLaren will retain their lineup of soon-to-be Italian Kirishima De Rosa and two-time world champion Joseph Willows. Ferrari will have a new lineup, which will be an all-British lineup consisting of current AlphaTauri driver Chris Chatfield and Chinese Grand Prix winner Jake Galloway. AlphaTauri will retain David Kupok, and he'll be joined by 2009 world champion Miklos Gal, who will return to the team for the first time since 2008 when they were known as Toro Rosso. Alfa Romeo will retain Andre Verderi, and he'll be joined by 2020 DTM champion and a returning Roman Quarg. Williams will retain their lineup of German veteran Felix Sonntag and Welshman Jamie Griffiths. Haas will retain 2019 DTM champion Daniel Fraser, and he will be joined by 2019 Formula E champion Amelia Wilson. And finally, the brand new Lamborghini team will have 4-time race winner Laura Chung, and she will be joined by 2020 GP2 runner-up Rahul Patel. As a result of this news, we now know that along with Roberto Gamba and Dudu Kirby, who will both be retiring from the OC as a whole after this race, these two other drivers will also not be on the top class grid in 2021. These are Manna's Rosetta Martinez and Alfa Romeo's Gabriel Gomez. These two drivers may end up as test drivers in 2021, but whether they will or not remains to be seen. Speaking of test drivers, 5 of the 11 teams competing in 2021 have already confirmed their test drivers for 2021, and they are on your screen right now. Mercedes will once again have 2010 GP2 champion Rivki Fakruzane for the third successive season. Renault will have current McLaren test driver Hento Sinonome. Ferrari will have former Williams test driver Dennis Graff. Williams will have 2020 GP2 championship contender Adam Chobot, and the brand new Lamborghini team will have Hungarian Daribush Daniel. The other 6 teams, which are Red Bull, Aston Martin, McLaren, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Haas, are still yet to announce their test drivers for 2021. Some drivers will be offered test seats later tonight, so if you have missed out on a drive or you applied to be a test driver, keep an eye out on your DMs on either Discord or Twitter, or even the notification bell on YouTube, as you could be offered with a test role for 2021. The remaining 6 test drivers will be announced on Friday on the GP4 OC Twitter account. In other news, the lineups for the renamed Formula 2 season have also been announced this week, and on top of that, the liveries for the 2021 season have also been revealed, with some of the liveries being revealed today having no sponsors due to drivers at this current time not requesting any custom sponsors, with the other liveries already having custom sponsors on there due to drivers already requesting them. Anyway, without further ado, here is F2 commentator Robert Ionescu to go for the teams and drivers for the renamed series.
The 2020 season has reached an end, and with that is the end of the GP4 OC GP2 Championship. We have reached the end of an era as we welcome F2. 2021 will bring us many new things, Joe. We've got a new team first of all, we also got the new OCF2 car, but most importantly, we've got new drivers on board. Who are those new drivers? Well, before we tell you who got in, real quick, let's talk about who's out. The obvious, of course, is Rahul Patel, the runner-up in the championship, and his teammate Jesus Perinen, who have both been announced in the top class. They will not be returning to GP2, now that it's being rebranded to F2. Another surprise, though, is, perhaps I'd call the breakout stars of last season, Kyle Burns and Joel Watterson, who have had brilliant seasons, have unfortunately not gone a seat in F2, not because they were bad or anything, but because they did not sign up. Wojtek Kulisic did not get a seat either, and neither did Max Skillen. Muhammad Usman Hamid, Nicholas Zorbach, Alex Broster, Santino Andrioli, and Lorenzo Tomaselli have all also been dropped. So with that out of the way, let's talk about who's still in it, of course, and who's joined. First up is Trident, the team that won the Drivers' Championship with Aaron Curtis. Aaron Curtis, after narrowly missing out on Aston Martin's seat, will be returning to Formula 2 to defend his title. He has never won a race in any tier. Joining him will be a promotee from Formula E, and this will be the first of many we'll see today, that being Rose Hansen, the American driver, hoping to have a good debut season for Trident. Next up is Untitled Chapter, the team's champions, of course. Both their drivers have been promoted to the top class. which means they've got a whole new lineup. Gabriel Quintino joins the team after a decent season in Campos, and Dennis Benz-Wallinger after 3 seasons at Prima. He has decided to jump ship. When Virtuosi have given him a lifeline and he has moved up to the British team. Next up will be going to Carlin. And Tosin Nome has remained at the team, at which he got his first win of course at Brno. And joining alongside him will be Blake Moore, the rookie making his step up from BTCC now that BTCC has come to an end. Next up, we're going to talk about our Grand Prix. They do not have a single change in their lineup. It is Henry Watson and Luca Farina once again. They got 2 victories with Farina and the first 2 podiums with Henry Watson. Up next is MP Motorsport. Ruslan Procuk, the man who finished 3rd in the championship, who has only won races at Hungary so far in his GP2 career. Now that it's rebranding to F2, he'll be staying at MP Motorsport, and alongside him will be a Formula E driver returning to the feeder series, of course. Now that it's known as Formula 2, Tobias Kress will be making his return. Up next is Charus Racing Systems. Just Frederik Suto will remain with the Czech team, of course, the Slovakian driver, but Kyle Burns has not gotten a seat because he did not sign up. So that means they gotta bring in someone new, and that someone new is Alexander Arnold, the man who finished 3rd, I believe, in Formula E level with Daniel Darbosch. Up next we'll be going to High Tech. Like I said earlier, both their drivers moved teams or got dropped entirely, while the team that made its debut in 2020 will now have the services of 2 new debutants. First up being Samit Ozkan from Formula E and Jonas Martins from BTCC, of course. Up next we'll be going to Campos. Dennis Graf, after seasons at Dams, he has decided to make the move and he'll be driving at Campos next season. Alongside him will be a driver from DTM, the only driver from DTM to get promoted, that being Gabriel Rico. Next up will be Graf's former team, Dams. They have 2 new drivers as well. First up is the BTCC World Championship runner-up, I believe, who drove for Peugeot Talbot, Jafari Blackwood that is, and alongside him will be now former Formula E driver and more famously perhaps former Indy 500 champion Fong Chanot. Next up we'll be going to Prema. They have a whole new lineup, which caught me a little bit off guard when I saw this, but Agatino Bifona, the Italian driver, the new Formula E champion who absolutely dominated the season, taking 6 wins, will be joining that team, and alongside him it is the experienced GP2 now F2 driver Juan Nguyen. Finally we got a new team, Van Amersfoort Racing. I'll refer to them as VAR for future reference, but in any case, they're here. They've replaced HWA Race Lab. Just like last season, Adam Chobot joins a brand new team. He made his debut with High Tech in 2020, now he's moving to VAR in 2021. And alongside him, a man I have mentioned just before in this recording, might I add, Daniel Darbosch. He's got a seat at VAR, and well, that just about completes the lineup for this season.
Thank you yet again to Rob for going through the lineups for Formula 2. It is an exciting time for the series, and between you and me, I am definitely hyped for this new era for the series. Some drivers you may have noticed who competed in the 2020 season have not made it onto the 2021 grid for various reasons. So if anybody has missed out on a drive for either the top class or F2, they'll have to apply for either DTM, Formula E or the brand new World Champ Car Series if they want to still race in 2021. However, on the topic of those sign-ups, the way the sign-ups for those will close will be a lot different than in previous seasons, and the way the drivers will be presented for each of those 3 series will also change. Unlike in previous seasons where one sign-up would close after another series revealed its teams and driver lineup, this will no longer be the case as a result of the tiering system being scrapped. So the closing times for these sign-ups will work like this. Tomorrow, a few minutes after the top class finale in Brazil, the DTM sign-ups will close, so if you haven't signed up for that series, you need to be quick. Same applies for Formula E and World Champ Car, as 2 days after DTM closes, so specifically on Friday at 10 PM BST, the Formula E sign-ups will close, and then 2 days after that, specifically on Sunday, also at 10 PM BST, the sign-up for the new World Champ Car Series will close. On Monday, the sign-up decisions group will go through each sign-up and decide which drivers will be driving for which teams in which series, and then the lineups for all 3 of those series, along with their 2021 calendars, will be revealed via a YouTube premiere on Wednesday at 7 PM BST. The second to last news today concerns the Drivers' Championship, as on your screen right now is the criteria that both the championship contenders need in order to win the title. Armar Carr will need a bit of an ass to win the title, as he is 17 points back behind his teammate and rival Franco Lopez. However, as we saw in Abu Dhabi last week, when Franco Lopez retired thanks to a water leak, anything is possible. And like the late Murray Walker said, anything can happen in Grand Prix racing, and it usually does. So who will walk away as the 2020 World Champion? Can Amar Khan finally break his duck after many seasons of trying and win his first ever world title, or will Franco Lopez bounce back from the disappointment of Abu Dhabi and become only the second driver in top class history to become a back-to-back world champion? Tomorrow's race should be very interesting, and hopefully we get an exciting title decider here in Brazil. And finally, in other news, this week's GP4OC race marks an end of an era, as after the Brazilian Grand Prix, we will be saying goodbye to the real-life car performances. Since the series' inception back in 2015 by AZ Schumi, the series for the last 15 seasons has been basing their seasons from the real-life Formula 1 World Championship. It started with the 2006 season, which saw Joseph Willows become the inaugural champion, and it has lasted up until this season in 2020. However, from the 2021 season, the series will be carving its own path and will be using fantasy car performances, which will add an exciting element in future sign-offs. Because of the series going fantasy from next season, it means the series doesn't have to follow real life anymore, meaning it can have its own performances, own calendar, and custom liveries. And speaking of liveries, on your screen right now is the official livery launch dates for all 11 teams competing in 2021. The 2021 season will mark the first ever time GP4OC will have car launches as a result of having a livery team, and we are going to go through all of the dates that you need to know right now. On the 12th of May, which is next Thursday, Lamborghini will be launching their first ever top class car at Monza, followed a day later by Williams, who will be launching their car at Alton Park. On the 14th, Red Bull will be launching their 2021 Challenger at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, followed by McLaren a day later at Donington Park. Haas will launch their 2021 car at Road America on the 16th of May, followed the next day by Aston Martin, who will reveal their first car after the rebrand at the circuit where their headquarters is based, Silverstone. Then at Imola a day later, Alfa Romeo will launch their car, with the prancing horse Ferrari launching a day later at their famous test track Fiorano. Defending champions Mercedes will launch on the 20th of May at Hockenheim, with AlphaTauri launching a day later at Mazzano. Then the final car launch for 2021 will come courtesy of Renault, who will be launching their 2021 Challenger at Paul Ricard. The launches for each team will be premiered on YouTube at 7 PM BST for each day. It is an exciting time for the OC, and we hope that you guys are looking forward to it as well. And that is it, not just for this week, but also for Series 8 of the GP4 OC News. Once again, I would like to thank Yuri for yet again allowing me to do this series, especially with the new music and layout, and once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for the support for this series. This series has yet again been growing from strength to strength, and I really enjoy making these segments for you guys every single season. The GP4 OC News will return midway in 2021, where we will have another 10 episodes and a pilot episode to go through the teams and drivers for the 2022 season. But until then, I have been JW97, enjoy the championship decider here in Brazil, and on top of that as well, enjoy the final ever top class race with real life car performances. Let's give this era of GP4OC a bloody good send off. And here we are then for the final ever real-life performance practice session. Hello everybody and welcome to the final practice session of the 2020 season. We are here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos, Sao Paulo for the Brazilian Grand Prix. I am JW97 and I'm joined today by Formula 2 commentator Robert Ionescu. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing okay. How about you?
Doing fine indeed, and well, safe to say that a lot of you are very shocked about the news vid. It's fair to say. So I will go through any details in a little bit, but without further ado, as you can see, we've got rain for practice, but it could be changeable, as you can see with the different color codes on the weather forecast. But without further ado, let's get right into the practice session, shall we? So, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people, ignore the loading graphic by the way, we are going to Brazil, not Abu Dhabi. I'd be a bit surprised if it was raining in Abu Dhabi, to be honest, although we did see that in 2011, to be fair, during qualifying. But anyway.
The greatest session.
Yes, indeed. The only time well, it wasn't the only time until these commentaries came about, but it was at the time the only time a commentary was done over qualifying. But anyway, we've got extreme wet tyres for the start of this practice session, so it should make things very, very interesting. No test drivers for this. I don't believe there was anybody who requested a test seat for today, so So it's just the normal drivers, you just hadn't confirmed. Now, it's fair to say that a lot of people are very shocked about some of the driver decisions. We'll go through the first one, Daniel Fraser. And Yuri has given me permission to break this down to people. Thank you, Yuri, for this one. So Daniel Fraser has been retained by Haas. I think it's fair to say a lot of people are very shocked by this because there were some people who were believing it was Bartosz Kloss who was going to get the seat, even with some saying Agatina Bavona. Well, it's fair to say, let's put it to you this way. Bartosz Kloss, we said that he would get the Haas seat if he won the DTM title. Well, he didn't win the DTM title, he finished 5th. And yes, Agatina Bavona did win the Formula E Championship, but where Daniel Fraser was placed in Tier 4, it was actually quite higher up in Tier 4, whereas compared to Maxim Titkov last season, when he was fighting with Amelia Wilson, he was quite low down in Tier 4. So Daniel Fraser, as a result, ended up getting retained because of that. And plus as well, his 2019 and 2018 season also saved him as well, because he finished 2nd in BTCC in 2018 and he won the DTM title in 2019. So that's also what's saving you. You've got to remember, guys, we don't just look at 2020, okay? Yes, 2020 has a lot of bearing on this, but 2019 and 2018 also have a say. Gives you a bit of a clue with the next one. So next up, Julius Anderson, part of Aston Martin. Right, this one I think is the biggest shot because a lot of people thought that Aaron Curtis would get this seat. Understandably so, because Aaron Curtis won the GP2 title. See, the thing is, okay, and it was the same reason against Davy Suarez, who you may remember won the GP2 title back in 2018, and he missed out on a seat. Now, yes, Jay McKenzie ended up getting retained, so how is that relevant? Well, here's the thing. Had Jay McKenzie gone to Red Bull, Julius Anderson would have got the Renault seat because finished 3rd in DTM, which fair enough is not the same as 1st in GP2, but when you looked at their previous 2 seasons, Suarez's previous 2 seasons weren't exactly great, whereas when you look at Julius Anderson's previous 2 seasons, they were great. And the same applied here between Julius and Aaron, because had Julius finished 4th in the DTM Championship, Julius wouldn't have got the Aston Martin seat, and it would have definitely have gone to Aaron Curtis. But because he finished 2nd in the DTM Championship, and plus given that his previous 2 seasons only just outweighed Curtis, it meant that he got the Aston Martin seat over Aaron. Over at Renault, I think it's fair to say everybody knows the reason for that one. I think it's not too much of a surprise. Perinen, okay, so man would have got the Renault seat if Perinen didn't get into the top 5 in the GP2 Championship. Now, why we say top 5 is because of the fact that this is one fact that I think a lot of people may have forgot about. Jesus was the Renault test driver. Now, the test driver role does have some bearing with this as well, providing if you have a decent season, which Jesus did. He finished 4th in the GP2 Championship, and as a result, his stats, combined with his impressive 2019 season, outweighed Roman's statistics. Then we get to Alfa Romeo, which I think is the one that everybody is mainly talking about. Roman got the seat over Aaron. Now, yes, this one was a very, very close one. So much so that me and Evan and a couple of others in the sign-up decision call were split on this. It was this very close, and I even told Rob about this when we was doing the F2 announcements. It was very, very close between the pair of them. Very close indeed. So you had Roman, who won the DTM title, and Aaron, who won the GP2 title. Now, what you've got to bear in mind is that Roman can't get into F2 or GP2. Now, it doesn't have that much bearing on GP2. GP2 would just slightly be ahead of the DTM title, even with the fact that Roman can't get into GP2 or F2. But when you looked at their previous 2 seasons, Roman's only just outweighed Aaron's again. Mainly because of his 2018 season. Aaron's previous 2 seasons were, to put it lightly, they weren't bad or anything, it was just mediocre. Let's put it that way. It was middle of the road. It wasn't like Suarez's statistics from previous seasons. So, I hope that clears things up. I'm sure it'll be talked about during the discussion stream, which is happening this Friday, by the way, at 7:30 PM BST. So be aware of that. If you've got any suggestions and you're on Discord, leave them in the little channel that we like to open up briefly for a brief period of time. And yeah, but I hope that's cleared things up. If you've still got questions, you can leave them in the stream chat. But either way, let's get back to the action, shall we? And might as well get the opinions on Rob whilst we're at it. So, first of all, are you surprised about Fraser being retained, Rob? Or are you not too surprised
really.
like the majority are?
No, I'm not surprised.
Okay. We kind of crossed in there a little bit, but anyway, so the one with Julius Anderson going to Aston Martin. Are you surprised about that one, Rob?
I mean, I knew it was always going to be close. I didn't pay that much attention to DTM as I paid to GP2, so obviously there's that little bit of bias, which is why I thought Aaron would get the seat. But that's also because, like I said, I didn't pay too much attention to DTM. Either way, it was going to be a very close decision, whichever way it went, and yeah, I think both of them did very, very well, and Julius just about edged them out, which is fair.
Yep, and Jesus Perinin going to Renault. Not too much of a surprise, I think it's fair to say. But I think he did. We were in the commentary last week, weren't we, in Brazil? And it was fair to say
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Jesus pretty much drove the race of his life to get that Renault seat, which he was just able to achieve in the end.
Well, when you go from P11 on the grid to P4, blasting past your teammate, and in an uphill climb, because everybody knew Roman was the favorite to get that Renault drive, even with Jesus being the test driver. But he gave it absolutely everything he had in that race. He was like, what, 7th in the championship, but that 4th place put him up to 4th in the standings, and yeah, once again, very narrow decision, but he's earned that seat.
Yes, and Roman Quarg, after how many seasons now? Since 2016, finally back in the top class with Alfa Romeo. And, well, it means as well that Gabriel Gomez and Rosetta Martinez are out of drive. Now, this is, as mentioned, a bit of a controversy. This was also a very close one between Aaron and Roman, arguably closer than what the Julius and Aaron situation was. But are you surprised by that one, Rob, or are you not too surprised?
I mean, I don't think it could have been any closer than that, so I was always expecting it was going to be competitive. I guess it was just a coin toss, really, and you can't be surprised by the results of a coin toss.
Indeed. Daniel, you have been retained by Haas. I think you're wondering that, judging from the have I question. Yes, you have been retained by Haas, so congratulations. So, anyway, that's that out of the way. Of course, we've had some test drives announced, and we also had the F2 liveries announced. Now, this is the first time you've seen them, Rob. What are your initial thoughts on them?
They're pretty.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an exciting era for Formula 2, it's fair to say, Rob, and those new liveries will probably be very striking. Now, as I mentioned in the news video itself, not all of them had sponsors. Now, the reason for that is quite simple, because not everybody requested sponsors at the time, mainly because, well, for obvious reasons, some of them didn't know that they were going to be in F2. Others did it in advance just in case, and that's why you saw some of them with sponsors, but others haven't. Now, as I speak right now, I'm not sure if Evan has done this yet. He might do it later on. No, he hasn't. He'll do it later on. But we will be asking the remaining F2 drivers if they want any custom sponsors on the car. So be aware of that one. And there are also some ones that I have actually held back from for reasons that you will find out at a later date. So there were some that I also had, but I held back on for obvious reasons. So that's that really. So F2's looking exciting. And also, Rob, we had the launch dates finally being revealed for all 11 teams for next season. Of course, we've got launches coming up next season. You described it best as getting some IFMC vibes in there.
Yeah.
And but you looking forward to the launches in general?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not sure I'll be able to watch them when they drop live, of course, because I'll have to deal with work and everything for the first time ever. But yeah, I'm very, very excited. It's a brand new era, and it's a great way to get started.
Indeed so, and those launches will start next Thursday. Next Thursday at 7 PM BST with Lamborghini, the brand new team. They'll be the first to launch their car. And I should point out, before anybody was asking, did I do that deliberately with Lamborghini being first? Actually, no. I actually did these in a random generator. And it just so happened Lamborghini got drawn out first. So it was just
That's
a coincidence,
convenient.
really.
Yeah.
It was very convenient, yes indeed. But I think, to be fair, out of all the teams out there, Lamborghini I think is the one that everyone's looking forward to. Particularly because, well, they're not using that bog standard livery that was used in the launch. They are actually having a proper livery. So I think people are going to be intrigued to see what the livery looks like. I've already seen the pictures of the livery, as you may know, because I'm part of the livery design team. They look absolutely amazing. So bear in mind
great to hear.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, shall we get back to the action? I think we've rambled on a bit too much there, to be honest with you.
It's the second time I've heard that question, so yeah, we can get back to the action if you want.
Well, actually, I just reminded myself, and then we'll get back to the action. Of course, you may have also seen as well that the way that DTM, Formula E, and World Champ Car are closing are going to be a lot different than what we've done in the past. Because in previous seasons, you may remember, once a sign-up closed, the other sign-ups would usually close after the lineup for one series got revealed, and vice versa. That ain't going to be the case now because, as you know, we are scrapping the tiering system, so we're doing it differently. So tomorrow, as per usual, a few minutes after the top class race, the DTM sign-ups will close. So if you haven't signed up yet for DTM and you haven't got a drive in either the top class or F2, you need to be quick because they close tomorrow, a few minutes after the top class finale in Brazil. And on top of that as well, 2 days after that, Formula E will close on Friday at 10 p.m. BST. And then 2 days after that, World Champ Car will close. 2 days after that on the Sunday at 10 p.m. BST as well, as Gal nearly ran into the back there of one of the Manners. We'll get on to Manor in just a little bit.
But speaking of this change... carry on first because I interrupted you.
Okay. So a day later, the sign-up decisions team, the same people who do the decisions for the lineups for the top class, we will be going through each and every one of them and deciding which drivers will be going in which series and which team. And then on Wednesday at 7 p.m. BST, we'll be doing a video premiere on YouTube to go through the lineups and also the calendar for those series as well. So look forward to that because it's going to be an interesting way of doing it. So I'll be also announcing something in a little bit, but I'm going to save it until qualifying because I have something to announce as well in regards to on the video series that I do. So, but anyway, Rob, you were going to say about that announcement with DTM, Formula E, and World Champ Car.
Well, with the tiering revamp, I think it's a very common sense coincidence, not coincidence, follow-up, I guess, consequence. And in the past, it worked pretty simple. You prioritize DTM, you sign up for DTM. If you don't get the drive there, you make Formula E your second choice, and then if you don't get that, you go for BCC and so on. But now the tiers are no longer one below the other, they're all equal. So for example, if you want to prioritize, say, Formula E over DTM, you can do that, which means, you don't have to worry about forfeiting one of your choices, for instance. Like, if your main priority is to get a seat into Formula E, but if you feel you're not going to get that, you want to get into DTM as a backup, that's totally viable now with these new changes.
Indeed so, and whatever the lineups will look like, I hope you guys are looking forward to it on Wednesday. So next Wednesday, that is, not the Wednesday, not tomorrow, the Wednesday afterwards. I'm getting ahead of myself. Right. Now we can finally get back to the action. So,
yeah, indeed, third time's the charm, eh? And it looks like Gal has absolutely dominated this session so far in his last outing for Red Bull.
Indeed, and well, it's ironic that in the wet conditions because at the moment we are looking at a Red Bull 1-2 at the moment. It's Gal ahead of Franco Gamba. His cousin Roberto there has a little bit of an error. We'll get on to him in just a little bit. But yeah, we've seen so far during the season the Red Bulls always seem to do well in the wet conditions compared to the Mercedes, and well, so far in this practice session, looks like it's the same thing happening here, Rob.
Yeah, it's a little bit of surprise that Mercedes are absolutely nowhere. Even one of the Ferraris is ahead of them, but clearly they're holding back some reserves for the race. They've already wrapped up the constructors, and no matter what happens tomorrow, one of their drivers will win the driver's title. So they're in the two drivers are in the race, just fight against each other. They don't really care about the other teams. As Evan Bourne definitely has to care about his car because he just crashed into the wall after a transmission problem.
Yes, indeed. Mechanical failures for Evan Byrne, of course. And, well, that's not the way he wanted to start this week, that's for sure, here in Brazil. And I was going to move on to another topic before that one happened. But, yes, Byrne's got has got a transmission problem, and he'll have to climb into the spare car if he wants to continue for the remainder of the session. He's currently down in 13th at the moment, as you can see on the timing tower, behind the 2 racing points.
Hopefully it won't be a long walk for him to the pit lane, because... he was just pretty much a few hundred meters out from the pit lane.
He's still crawling at the moment, so he hasn't quite got the car to stand still at the moment. So I think it may be a while before the marshals get to it. And
flags have been put in place.
Hopefully nobody crashes into it. They should be able to get around it. They are smart enough to do that at times. But anyway,
but there will be a lot of lap times ruined, as Joseph Willows is on the lap right now.
Indeed, unless the yellow flags can get cleared very quickly, indeed. Now, One thing I do want to bring up as well, of course, you've touched on it briefly there. We have got a title decider here in Brazil, and it is between the two Mercedes drivers, of Franco Lopez and Omar Carr. Because last week at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, after we literally thought that Lopez was going to get it wrapped up, his car decides to have a mechanical failure. And Omar Carr took full advantage of that, and not only got the victory at Abu Dhabi, but also got the fastest lap as well, bringing the gap down to 17 points. It's still an Asfa car, but it is possible, as we saw in Abu Dhabi, anything can happen. So,
In my opinion, it looked like a shoehorn in for Franco Lopez in Abu Dhabi that he had that problem. There are only two things that can stop Lopez from taking the title tomorrow. Those two things are himself and the car. Omar Carr can't stop him, he can only sit there and pick up the pieces. Because if I'm not wrong, if Lopez finishes 5th, that's all he needs to do, and this car is more than capable of finishing 5th.
You are correct, it is. He just needs to finish in 5th and the World Championship will be his, and he would become the second back-to-back champion in the top class history to achieve that, and the final one of this era. Of course, this is an end of an era for GP4OC. This is the final race to use real-life car performances as we'll be heading off into the fantasy era from next season, so hopefully we'll give this era a good send-off. But there's also a few more goodbyes as well that are happening. First of all, this is Manner's last race in the top class. We've known this since 2017, but now we're finally at this point. This is Manner's final race, and I'm pretty sure they want to go out in style, Rob. And one way they can do that is if they beat Haas in the Constructors.
Yeah, indeed. But what they need to do for that, because obviously one of their drivers is actually going to go to Haas at the end of this season. Felix Zonta has just improved. But Manor, they got some points in Belgium, I think, and at least they're glad they got some points in last season. But they still got one race in which they could get a point or two.
Indeed so. Well, they go into this race 4 points clear of Haas, so they just need to hope, really, that Haas don't finish in 7th at least, because otherwise if that happens, then Haas would finish ahead of them. But of course, it won't be the last time we will see Manor, because of course they are moving over to the brand new World Champ Car Series from next season. And whilst we're speaking right now, we've just seen Amelia Wilson go onto the normal wet tyres, so we're already seeing a compound change potentially happening in this session. But they're not the only...
There is a chance that qualifying could be dry, and if it is, this means all this running and practice will be for naught. Might not be for naught if the race tomorrow is wet, but as things stand, not a lot of qualifying data.
Indeed so. But that's not the only goodbye as well, because we're also saying goodbye to Dudu Kirby after this race. This is the only home race he's going to get. He hasn't scored any points, so he'll want to end his career with a points finish if he can. But in Manner's case, they hope he doesn't achieve that. So it's a goodbye for him, but also a goodbye to Roberto Gamba, who will be retiring from the OC as a whole after this race as well, in a shock announcement back at the Malaysian Grand Prix. He is running a special helmet for this one. He is wearing a Fernando Alonso helmet for this one to commemorate his final race in the OC, the 2014 Fernando Alonso helmet, that is. And he'll be hoping to end his career on a high as David Kupok goes up into 4th position. It seems that so far the extreme wet tyres are still the way to go, despite the fact that we saw Amelia Wilson on the normal wet tyres, as Fraser meanwhile gets up
that could be it. Meanwhile, on the topic of Dudu Kirby, I'd just like to touch, this is his second ever outing in Brazil. His first outing was, of course, a championship decider in Interlagos last season in GP2. He crashed to Jamie Griffiths, but it didn't matter because Thomas Anderson retired as well, so he picked up the title. Now he'll be going back to Brazil one last time, and if you want to bow out, there's no better place to bow out than at home.
Indeed so, and hopefully he has a very good end to his OC career. Same goes for Roberto Gamba, as mentioned as well. He'll be hoping for a good end to his top-class career as well. As meantime, we've got a bit of a traffic jam forming down at turn number 4.
Roke almost colliding there with that McLaren, as a Red Bull, not a Haas, just made his way past him.
Yeah, indeed, he kind of got swarmed there, did George Roke.
Racing point after a great performance in Abu Dhabi, finishing both cars on the podium. Now, they are still in 2nd and 3rd, but are 12th and 13th, just add 10 to 2nd and 3rd.
Indeed so, as we now look at Evan Byrne, who has actually now gone out in the spare car.
Slide for Kirby there.
Yeah, as we were just talking about him, he's just had a little bit of a drift going through into the left-hander. Well, I should really point out as well, the last 2 Brazilian Grand Prix have been wet. So could this be an omen for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix? We will have to wait and see, of course, as Daniel Fraser gets into 9th.
There will be only one way to find out, of course.
Indeed, so as Martinez got up into 13th, so it shows that the conditions are improving every time as we're starting to see some faster lap times. Byrne, of course, in the spare car as well. Again, another near moment there. This time, Roke colliding into the back of the team that he'll be driving for next season.
A man who
Not
is
sure.
replacing actually Nicolas Gal, because Gamba's in the pits. And Gal almost ran into a manor at the pit lane entry, and Roke almost did the same.
Indeed so. Well, Gal's pit indicator actually hasn't actually came up, so I think it might have actually been Franco Gamba after all. So, anyways,
that could be a
meantime,
case.
Franco Lopez, who is on the normal wet tyres, and of course, the man who's pretty much got it all to lose really with the championship. It didn't improve that time, but he's on the normal wets. As Byrne, meanwhile, goes up into second. What tyres is he on? Let's have a look. He's still on the extreme wet, so
Looks-
a bit interesting there.
Yeah, indeed. The normal wets can be competitive, it seems, if you can get them up to temperature. But that's the hard part. Looks like the extremes, they aren't overheating or anything like that, so they're still good to use in this weather. As here goes Q-Puck trying to make a move on Jake Galloway.
Yes, indeed. Galloway's last race for Renault, of course, before he heads off to Ferrari. And
Don't forget, Galloway has won in Brazil when he was in GP2 2 seasons ago. He took a dominant win for MP Motorsport back then.
Has got some very good memories of this track, it's fair to say, for Jake Galloway. And of course, he's got good memories this season, of course, having won the Chinese Grand Prix. I think a lot of people would arguably say that he might be Rookie of the Season, it's fair to say.
Who else could you possibly give it to? I mean, come on.
Exactly. I mean, he won a Grand Prix. Let's get that clear. He won the Chinese Grand Prix, and he's just and went on to score 3 more podiums during the season. Could add 1 more if fate goes his way this week.
As someone who also got his first win in China, I have to give a lot of respect to Jake. He's had a phenomenal season.
Indeed so. As meantime, speaking of Renaults, Evan Byrne is again lighting up the timing sheets at the moment. He's currently gone up on his personal best in the middle sectors. Lopez, meanwhile, with the normal wets, has actually got up into 3rd. So he's kind of got them into the operating window at the moment as Lopez. Keep an eye on Byrne in the background because he was up in the middle sector. Can he improve? And no, he can't. He actually lost time in the last sector. So he remains 4 attempts down on Gal at this point.
Anyway, Joe, something I wanted to ask you. Now that the silly season is over, what would you say were your favorite moments of 2020 silly season?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think favourite's the wrong word. I would say, it's an interesting one. You kind of put me on the spot there, Rob.
Take your time.
I think I would say probably the most shocking out of all of that, and it's not the team news that we got this week, as we've got a yellow flag in fact, so I'm going to have to hold that thought for a moment.
But the yellow is gone already. Gamba's had a spin.
Roberto Gamba, and it looks like it his driver error because he had no one around him, and it just looks like a simple aquaplane there, Rob.
Yeah, indeed.
And going over that traditional bump that usually spins you around as well. But look, he's kept the engine going and he can get underway again. He's also on a normal wet. But yeah, I think the most shocking moment, as we were on Roberto, I think it has to be him because I think it's fair to say as we mentioned in Malaysia, he was supposed to still be at Ferrari for next season, as we know. He was supposed to still be at Ferrari alongside Jake Galloway, and it wasn't meant to be Chris Chatfield. Chatfield probably would have been out of the drive if it wasn't for this. But Roberto, of course, he obviously came up to me in my DMs that week, I think a day after he got the podium, actually, and said, yeah, I'm going to have to retire from the series, I'm afraid. And we obviously accepted it. So to us, that was a shock because we didn't see it coming. It just came out of nowhere, really. And so much so that it even was a shock to Franco Gamba as well, because he got the news quite late as well from Roberto that this was happening in his cousin's life. But we do wish Roberto all the very best, of course, and hopefully he has a great future, especially now that he's moving over. He'll be soon moving over, in fact, to New Zealand, specifically in Wellington, and hopefully he has a good life over there. Meantime, David Cupart gets up into 3rd position. I think he was also on the normal. In fact, I think he's still on the extremes. In fact, I think he still had grey tyres on there. But we are seeing improvements. We are still seeing improvements, but so far nobody's been able to dethrone Miklos Gal in this session.
Well, Fraser just improved. He's up into P11, which is good for the Haas, considering its woeful form this season. On the topic of Gal and of the topic of the sales season, I think him announcing his intention to go to AlphaTauri absolutely shocked everybody.
It did indeed, and yes, it did. That's
I
actually a
think
good shout, that is, because I think a lot of people thought that Miklos would end up staying at Red Bull, but he went to the route for AlphaTauri. Obviously, he has his reasons for doing it, and he's made it publicly known why he wants to go to AlphaTauri. But
still,
yeah,
it can be a little bit strange. I think had he wanted to go for to remain at Red Bull, he would have undoubtedly gotten the seat, considering just how far in front he is of his teammate Franco Gamba, as Aaron Byrne has just gone up into second.
he stayed in second, but he's actually reduced the gap to 0.3 of a second. But yeah, he probably would have easily still been at Red Bull, to be honest with you, because of the fact that he also gave the Mercedes as a run for their money when nobody expected it.
Yeah, indeed, he's overperformed this season, dragged the absolute most out of that car. He's just been doing incredibly well, and he could still get second, can he?
Yes, he can. I think he did mention that he can still get second place. I can just quickly double check that. In fact, I'll get up the championship standings on my on the spreadsheet there. But meanwhile, whilst I have a look, Carr has just gone up into fourth position. Meanwhile, so he's actually got ahead of his teammate Lopez, so fourth and sixth at the moment for the two Mercedes drivers. Just quickly having a check. Yes, he can. He can still mathematically get second in the championship, because going into this, he is 16 points behind Amar Carr. So yes, he can do. So be interesting to see if he can achieve that, although it is going to be a bit of an ass, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, Evan Byrne has made some GP4 awards, GP4 OC awards, so feel free to vote on them if you can. I believe they haven't closed yet, so you can still vote, and go ahead and post whatever you want in them. No shame or anything like that, but yeah. Speaking of Evan Byrne, he's just gone into the pits.
Yes, indeed. I'm pretty sure Evan will link the awards page somewhere on the stream chat if anybody wants to vote. But if you're wondering who's on commenting Matthias, it's myself, Joseph Willows, and Robert Ionescu. So, hello,
Probably
Matthias.
the best commentary duo according to Franco Gamba.
Yeah, I'm a bit. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I'll take the compliment.
In any case, Fortune has just gone up into 7th fast as the Racing Point finally starting to turn up the wick just a little bit in their final race before they rebrand. As now Kaz gone to the top by just 1,000 of a second, and now he slid a little bit, causing Fraser to spin.
Yeah, Fraser's just spun there, and he's actually only got 1,000 than Gal there. I meant in the stream chat, Ro. I didn't mean on Discord. I know it's pinned on Discord, so I don't know if you misheard me there. But anyway,
Fraser
Kirby
just ran to the back of him there.
Yeah. Kirby, meanwhile, speaking of Hasses, went up into 6th position whilst all that was going on, and as a result, Fraser has actually held up Gal, the guy who Carr just dethroned from the top of the timing sheets with just under 5 minutes to go.
And maybe practice, of course, but don't forget, if the race were to be like this, with Armarca first and Frank Lopez 9th, then Armarca would take Dial away from him, which would be an incredible comeback considering that earlier in the season he was upwards of 45 points behind his teammate.
Indeed so. As meantime, Miklos Gal is going to try and see if he can find a way through on Daniel Fraser, but it's not going to work there, of course, as he now makes his way towards the hairpin. But anyway, as meanwhile, with just over 4 minutes to go, this is what the top 10 currently looks like. It's Armar Car top with Miklos Gal 2nd, Evan Byrne in 3rd, with George Roque in 4th, Roberto Gamba in 5th, Dudu Kirby in 6th. Well, that's all changed because Chung's now gone to the top of the timing sheets. Well done, Joe. So
what there was she on?
Yeah, that's a 1 minute 21.254 there for Laura Chung. So I think that indicates the conditions are continuing to improve. And as Rob said, I wonder what tyres she's on. That will be a very interesting question. Is she on the normal wets or is she on the extreme wets? I would be very interested to know, really, as well, a bit of a awkward pit call there going on there between Fraser and Gal there, but Gal at least has got some clear air, so he could try and dethrone Carr as best as they can. And Laura Chung was on the normal wets, so it seems like the normal wets might be the way to go now, Rob.
Yeah, they're starting to get into the element, but then again, it's only practice, and there's only 3 minutes left of practice, so it's not like it's going to mean anything.
Michael Clark has just hit us with a very, very good question. What has been your favourite race during this era of the OC, the real-life car performance era? Well, I think there are some obvious ones there. There's the Korean Grand Prix of 2010, which sparks to mind. You've obviously got the Chinese Grand Prix this season, and of course the Malaysian Grand Prix, 2 classics this season, it's fair to say, in 2020. And Yeah, but I would probably say the 2010 Korean Grand Prix just because of the underdog performance that Southgate was able to perform in that race. I think that would probably be the best OC race ever, and I think Yuri would probably agree with that one, to be honest.
Probably, but if you want to hear my opinion, just be aware this opinion of mine is extremely biased, but my favorite race would have to go to the 2013 Italian Grand Prix. I think it's a race that I won. I've only won 4 races, but out of those, this was my favorite race win. Fighting with the Mercedes all the way to the last lap, the two Mercedes of was it then Roke and McKenzie. So yeah, the Lotus fighting the two marks for the win in 2014 was quite a show, and I got my second victory, and I was very very happy that was my favorite race, obviously for biased reasons. Yeah, that as well.
Yes, 2013 Korea was also a very good race as well, where Nella and Volker basically did a photo
I was leading the
finish.
championship heading into that race, but I got taken out.
Yeah. But anyway, whilst we were speaking there, Motrin has now gone up into second place. I presume he's also on the normal wet tyres. And of
I
course,
presume
Racing
that
Point...
is the case. Meanwhile, Gal here on the extremes has just gone purple in Sector 1, so these tires still aren't overheating or anything.
Oh, it seems that both the extremes and the normal wets work, and even Griffiths has gone up on Chung in the first sector there, as you just seen there. So Griffiths finding some pace on those tyres as Cooper crosses the line. He doesn't improve. As we're going to
We're
stay on board.
expecting an improvement from Chatfield here. Let's watch him cross the line.
He goes 19th only.
Underwhelming.
Rose is on improvement. What was I going to say? I was going to say something, but it's kind of slipped out of my mind.
Well, in any case, while you try to remember, you have Franco Gamba.
That was what I was going to say. Of course, I was going to say it before we saw the times light up. This is obviously Racing Point's final race before being rebranded as Aston Martin. They're, of course, the only one to do what they did in real life, which was rebrand to Aston Martin. Of course, Renault are not going to rebrand as Alpine.
Speaking of, the Motrin's just gone quickest.
Indeed so, but he might get eclipsed here by Armar Carr. Across the line he will go, and he does eclipse him by a tenth. As meantime, Galloway only improves to 19th. Looks like his own teammate may have held him up there. Gal crosses the line, goes into third, slots behind Motrin. As here comes Griffiths, he slots to fifth. As Gamba will get one more lap to get some fun on these tyres. Roke, what's he doing? He's gone up on Carr. So we're really going to see a battle towards the end of this practice session, it's fair to say, Rob.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, looks like Lopez is not taking this practice session seriously. Why would he? He's up. He's down P14, but the times here don't matter for anything, and I'm 100% sure he will turn up the week for quali.
Indeed so. Whether these conditions will be there for quali is another question, as Roke breaks into the 1 minute 19s as a result and goes to the top of the timing sheets. Here comes David Cupart then. Also
Racing
on the...
Point have finally woken up after being at the back for most of the session.
Indeed so. It should be pointing out as well, the normal wet conditions, there's a soft and hard compound for normal wets as well, so that's also something to bear in mind when you see some of the lap times. Chatfield gets one more lap in before the session comes to a close. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out. Did Videri make it? I'm not sure. We kind of cut onto him there quite late. Did Videri make it? Let's see. Cross the line.
He has not.
No, he didn't. He didn't. The lap time counter didn't count. So the person who was last across the line is the one before Videri. I'm not sure who it is. Can we just quickly have a look to see who it is in front of Videri, who was the last across the line? Where is it? Where are they? It is De Rosa, I think.
It is De Rosa.
Rosa was last across the line. Martinez goes into 15th. There's a lot of cars going to the pits.
Speaking of De Rosa, this will be the last race before he switches to Italian nationality, of course.
Going by his real nationality, I believe, from what I understand. So anyway, Gal crosses the line, goes into 6th position, as now here comes Roberto Gamba, who's now coming around the final 2 turns.
Looks like a green lap, but let's see where he's going to end up with this. In his last practice session and the last practice session of the real-life performance era, here goes Roberto Gamba, 7th.
Indeed. Of course, the last practice session to be 30 minutes long, of course, because next season it will be 40 minutes long. I did remember that, Yuri, don't worry, I do remember that. So, anyway, as Roke crosses the line, and he improves in the last sector only, though, goes 72 thousandths quicker than what his previous best was. Daniel Fraser is now going to cross the line, and he goes into 16th. Q-Park across the line, last chance for him to try and improve. And across the line will go the German, and he does not improve, only just though. Here comes De Rosa, the last one to complete a lap. He is up on his personal best. Coming down the pit straight he will go now then.
Currently in 13th, where is he going to go?
soon-to-be Italian, crosses the line, and he goes only up to 11th. And there you have it. It's George Roke top, Armar in second, and Jake Galloway third. Not too many conclusions we can draw out of that, Rob.
I guess the main conclusion is Lopez is not taking this seriously. That's pretty much it. He was done in 15th, was it? But obviously in qualifying he'll be much faster than that.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause for a moment and then we'll come back with a fresh stream for qualifying. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Robert Ionescu, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a